I was in Corfe Castle, which is a super little village near Dorset, not far from Dorchester, and it has a railway, a steam railway. And I was looking through. They had a carriage which they are doing up, and they were trying to raise money. And they were actually selling things. There were some lovely lamps and all sorts of fascinating stuff. And I pondered whether there might be a camera, and there, on the table, was this camera. And it was incredibly well priced. So well priced, I gave them a little bit more because I thought, well, that's really cheap. It was cheap for a reason, really, because although this is a Hawkette #2, dates from about 1930, Kodak camera, which they're quite collectible, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in a moment. But this one I thought, oh, this is good. So I paid the man the money, got outside, and then I realised it wouldn't open, and it just wouldn't open. I should have tested it at the time. I eventually got it home. I did manage to open it, but the bellows were very almost like stuck together. But since then, I've had it open now for a week, and the good news is it seems quite stable. I'm not really trusting the bellows, so a bit of a spoiler at the beginning. I haven't put a film through this, but I hope to maybe in the future see how these bellows are, test them with a torch, and maybe I will even put a film for it, because initially looking at this classic Baker, it was made from Bakelite, and Bakelite is a early form of plastic. Now remember, most cameras at this time are being made from metal, sheet metal, so a Bakelite is a very new material, and this Bakelite has a sort of wood type finish which was highly popular in the 1930s. So the design of this camera is really interesting, and I think they made it with two types of film. There was, I think, a 116 version and the 120, and this is the 120. And if I open the back, now this has actually had a film in, and you can see the 6x9 here, right? And it's actually, when we look inside, it's in very nice condition. It's just the bellows, and I can actually see here light. Oh, basically they are leaking like billio, you could say. So if I am, oh, yes, I don't know if you can see there, but there's light coming through a lot there. So at this point, it would be useless to put a film through, but we could put some tape on. Problem with putting tape on, we might not get the bellows back in. They are quite brittle, so it's a bit of a... This is an interesting camera in many different ways, because in one sense it's in quite good condition, but it's obviously been left in a bag for a long time, and you can see it's got some rust on, and it's had problems with the bellows. But the Bakelite is in very good condition, because sometimes the Bakelite cracks. Quite often you've got dents around it or breakages, and this is incredibly good for that. So, and it's also got a viewfinder that you can tilt, so that's for 6x9 landscape, or we can put it and use it like this for portrait. The controls are really straightforward. You have a shutter here, and you have I and B here, so it can do long exposures. As I said, the design of it is lovely. The other thing, the Hawkette issue, right? What was the Hawkette brand of Kodak cameras? I find this fascinating because Kodak, as we know, were an enormous company. In the 30s, they were growing as a company based in the States, but they had a big division over here in the UK. And the key thing about Kodak was it made its money mainly on the film. You know, like nowadays, printers, computer printers, make the money from the ink. With these, you make the money from the film. So, a lot of cameras called the Hawkette were promotional cameras, and you bought them by either saving up the coupons, or newspapers used to do promotions, again saving tokens from the newspaper. Cigarette coupons were a huge thing. Remember that, a time when a lot of people smoked, and there used to be competition for brand loyalty, etc. And one of the ways was by giving out coupons, and you could save your coupons and get things like gramophones and cameras and lighters and binoculars, all sorts of things. And basically, if you see a Kodak with the name Hawkette, it is a sign that it's a promotional camera. Sorry not to have any images to show you today, but hopefully you now know a little bit more about these lovely Bakelite cameras.